pledged to continue his drive towards denuclearization and peace on the Korean Peninsula. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un has also reiterated that he plans to get rid of the regime's nuclear program, but also warned that the US that unless they take measures as well, he might be forced to take a, quote, new path. We'll discuss what that could mean with a guest in the studio later, but first we start with the latest headlines by turning to Devin Whiting at the News Centre. Devin.
Hi, Jong-un. President Moon today also addressed his domestic agenda, saying his administration will work to build a country where everyone can benefit evenly from economic growth. Speaking at a special New Year's event, the president said his administration must continue working to change the foundation and framework of the country's economic policy, and he called for patience as the government promotes innovation in all industries. He promised that his administration will do its utmost so that economic policies have results in people's lives. As for the president's drive for peace, he said he will work to solidify the gains made so far so that in the new year there is what he called an irreversible wave of peace. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un gave his highly anticipated New Year's speech yesterday, in which many were hoping for a sign that there might be a breakthrough in North Korea's negotiations with the U.S. The State Department decided not to comment on the speech, but President Trump said he hopes to meet with Kim Jong-un. Lee Ji-won has more.
In response to Kim Jong-un's New Year's speech, U.S. President Donald Trump said he too looks forward to meeting with his North Korean counterpart. President Trump on Tuesday evening tweeted the comment together with part of news report that says Kim Jong-un is ready to meet President Trump anytime. He referred to Kim as someone who realizes that North Korea possesses great economic potential. Trump's tweet also included the part of the report where it said the regime will not make or test nuclear weapons or give them to others. This follows the North Korean leader's New Year's speech early on Tuesday, where he said he is firmly determined to denuclearize. But Kim also said should the U.S. not keep its promise to the world and only urge the North to take measures, Pyongyang will have no choice but to find other ways to settle peace on the Korean peninsula. And in making a peaceful and prosperous peninsula, Kim said efforts for multi-party talks should be made to change the current armistice agreement to a declaration to end the Korean War and have South Korea cease all military drills with other foreign sources. Kim Jong-un's New Year's speech was long awaited by many around the world as it was hoped to provide a breakthrough in the current months-long deadlock in the denuclearization talks. But the U.S. seemed to be careful on its evaluation of the speech. A U.S. State Department spokesperson speaking to Seoul-based Yonhap News Agency on the condition of anonymity on Tuesday said the U.S. declines the opportunity to comment. While such a response is uncommon, some watchers say that the temporary shutdown of the U.S. federal government may have been a reason for it. Meanwhile, major U.S. media outlets reported on how the deadlock still continues. The New York Times said that the nuclear negotiations are back at square one, as the North's demands are not that different from before the summit. And the Washington Post cited a senior analyst who said that the U.S. should move decisively in the new year to find out how far Kim is willing to go towards a verified cap on his arsenal. Lee Ji-won, Arirang News.
President Moon Jae-in visited the National Cemetery in Seoul this morning on the first working day of the year to pay his respects to South Korea's fallen heroes. It was his first official event of the year, so President Moon was accompanied by all 19 members of his cabinet, including Prime Minister Lee Na-kyun and his senior aides. In the visitor log, he left a message that said 2019 is the 100th anniversary of Korea's national foundation. The president wants to settle the dispute over when modern Korea was founded in favor of the view held by many that it was founded in 1919, when under Japanese colonial rule, a provisional government was established in Shanghai. He also reiterated his resolve to make Korea a country in which everyone can prosper together. South Korea's Defense Minister Chung Kyung-do has once again stressed that even after the eventual transfer of wartime operational control from Washington to Seoul, U.S. troops and the ROK U.S. Combined Forces Command will remain in the country. Chung was speaking on a TV program last night where the nation's defense, foreign, and unification ministers discussed defense and foreign policy. Chung also said that although the exact timing of the OPCON transfer has not yet been determined, Seoul has been preparing for the transfer for the last 10 years. And now, he said, is the time to take steps needed to do it. UNICEF says it will need around $19.5 million this year to help North Korean children. According to the UN agency, $9.8 million are needed to support nutrition in the north and $5.8 million for water and sanitation. Other funds are needed to support health care. UNICEF says 1 in 5 North Korean infants suffer from malnutrition. The amount of funding to support North Korean children, it says, has been falling since 2015. In other news, the heads of South Korea's top 5 conglomerates have laid out their visions and strategies for the new year. They'll be dealing with challenges like slowing growth and rising trade protectionism. Kim Ji-yeon reports.
The buzzwords for Korea's top 5 conglomerates to kick off the new year are innovation, strengthening competitiveness, and future readiness as they face a variety of uncertainties. At Digital City Samsung Electronics headquarters in Suwon, co-vice chairman and CEO Kim Gi-nam celebrated the company's 50th anniversary since its founding. He laid out Samsung's vision to become one of the most advanced IT companies that lasts a century. He said the company must overcome obstacles by creating a corporate culture of learning from past failures and encouraging challenges, calling it crucial to the development of the next generation of goods and innovative technology, as well as nurturing new industries. In his New Year's speech, Chung Il-sun, executive vice chairman of Korea's largest automaker Hyundai Motor Group, called for changes and innovation in how the automaker thinks and operates, saying they're the game changers in the global market. Chung said the group plans to launch 13 new models in the key U.S. and Chinese markets and strengthen operations in emerging markets like India and Southeast Asia. Together with its affiliate Kia Motors, they're aiming to develop 44 hybrid all-electric and hydrogen fuel cell electric models by 2025 and want to sell 1.67 million units of the models each year as part of its clean mobility strategy. The CEO of Korea's second-largest chipmaker, SK Hynix, Lee Seok-hee, emphasized turning risks into opportunities amid falling global DRAM prices and fears of an end to the semiconductor boom. Through innovation, Lee laid out plans to bring the company's market value to almost $90 billion in 3 years. LG Group Chairman Koo Kwang-mo emphasized consumers, saying providing goods and services that change consumers' lifestyles and to do that faster than anyone else are the standards LG should pursue. Choi Jong-un, chairman of the country's largest steelmaker POSCO, called for perseverance in the face of rising trade protectionism. Kim Ji-yeon, Arirang News.
Meanwhile, South Korean tech giant Samsung Electronics has been ranked second on a list of the world's top holders of corporate patents. Its local rival LG Electronics and several other South Korean companies also made the top 50. Choi Si-young has this report.
The World Intellectual Property Organization's annual report, World Intellectual Property Indicators 2018, shows Samsung Electronics ranked second in the total number of patent families between 2013 and 2015. A patent family refers to a set of patents taken in various countries to protect a single invention. It's the same invention disclosed by a common inventor and patented in more than one country. Computer technologies were the largest single category for Samsung's patent applications, making up roughly 30%, followed by digital communications and semiconductors. South Korean corporate giants LG Electronics and Hyundai Motor were ranked 9th and 18th, respectively. Japanese imaging and optic firm Canon topped the list. Japan also had the largest number of firms at 20 on the top 50 list. China was next with 13. South Korea had 7, the third most companies by country. US and German companies also had a significant amount of patents. In 2015 alone, China filed the largest number of patent applications, roughly 50% of the entire global volume, followed by Japan, the US, and South Korea. Choi Si-young, Arirang News.
I'm Devin Whiting, and those are your news headlines.
President Moon Jae-in delivered his New Year's Day address today, where he pressed hard on ultimately bettering the country's economy. He also mentioned the situation with North Korea, pledging that he will continue with the denuclearization and peace process laid out over the last year. Our Blue House correspondent Shin Se-min reports.
President Moon Jae-in's proposal for the brand new year of 2019 is to build a nation in which everyone can prosper together. In his New Year speech, President Moon urged the creation of a new economic model for South Korea, saying the country's economy right now faces the challenge of persistently slow growth. His plan for the coming 12 months is to improve the lives of the people across the board.
2019년은 정책의 성과들을 국민들께서 삶 속에서 확실히 체감할 수 있도록 최선을 다하겠습니다. 국민의 삶이 고르게 나아지고 불평등을 넘어 함께 잘 사는 사회로 가는 첫 해로 만들어 보겠습니다.
The president said he will call for interested parties to make compromises and concessions so that economic growth can be felt by everyone, something he said will require patience. On the issue of job creation, the president also promised to build 30,000 smart factories and to create a regulatory sandbox for new businesses in the IT and communication sectors. On his drive for ultimate peace, the president promised to do even more and to cement the gains already made.
지금 우리가 누리는 평화는 아직까지는 잠정적인 평화입니다. 새해에는 평화의 흐름이 되돌릴 수 없는 큰 물결이 되도록 최선을 다하겠습니다.
He said through the ultimate denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula, the country can open up an era of peace and prosperity. Connecting that with the economy, President Moon said, will link countries to the north and the south of the nation in a peaceful and prosperous community, which includes Russia, Europe, and Southeast Asia. Shin Se-min, Arirang News.
For more, joining us now, we have with us Professor Min Jong-un from the Korea National Diplomatic Academy. It's good to have you back on the show for this year.
Yeah, my pleasure.
So President Moon's New Year's address was focused heavily on economic issues for South Korea. But today, we will be focusing on the inter-Korean relation issues. But even that, he tied it back to the economy, where he said he will endeavour to make an era of peace that will also help improve the economy. So before we move on to the inter-Korean relations issues, what does this say about the current situation that President Moon Jae-in faces here in South Korea?
Well, I think that this year is very important in terms of establishing a peace regime on the Korean Peninsula. As you know, denuclearization and the peace-building process of the Korean Peninsula started off last year, just 1 year. And we made a big progress in terms of the easing military tensions and maintaining stable security situations on the Korean Peninsula last year. It's a big move. But as the President Moon said, the peace that we have currently is still temporary. So based on the achievement we made last year, we need to move forward and establish a cornerstone for the peace regime on the Korean Peninsula. And as you know, the North Korea's denuclearization is the key to establishing the peace regime. So we need to move forward, but we are still in a very important critical initial process in terms of the North Korea-US negotiations. So the President Moon shows his hope that this year he will make the big flow of the peace on the Korean Peninsula in terms of his active role of the facilitator.
But he also, as I said, mentioned very much about how the economic benefits will help the South Korean economy as well, if there is peace towards the inter-Korean relations. So how real are these kind of economic benefits for the Korean Peninsula, and how far away is it?
Well, it depends on, it relies on how soon and how much North Korea makes real progress in terms of the denuclearizing itself. You know, economic development or the economic benefit through peace, need to go with the North Korea's denuclearization. Last year, we just got the initial process, a very beginning process. So the inter-Korean relations, improvement of inter-Korean relations could a little bit go further. than the achievements or the improvements of the North Korea and U.S. Negotiations. But we got the different situations this year, and the U.S. and the international community is looking at what's happening on the Korean Peninsula in terms of the two things: North Korea's denuclearization and the corresponding measures or the trustworthy measures provided by United States. And the last year, the South Korea and the international community witnessed that the U.S. and the international community, like EU and the Southeast Asia and the other parts of the world, almost all of the international community, almost all of the countries, they are sticking to the economic sanctions on North Korea. And they hope that the economic sanctions could be relieved or lifted only when North Korea makes real progress. So it means that this year, if we want to make a progress in terms of the inter-Korean economic cooperation, then North Korea's denuclearization or the denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula should come first. Otherwise, and the economic cooperation, improvement of the inter-Korean relations, or the fixing and reconnecting the inter-Korean railways and roads would not be easy to come.
We're going to move on because obviously President Moon's speech came a day after North Korean leader Kim Jong-un made his New Year's Day address as well, where he laid out through his regime's policy direction. It was a somewhat startling address because of the style and format which had changed, which we didn't expect. And although he reiterated his plan towards denuclearization, he also warned that the US needs to provide reciprocal measures or that they would find a, quote, a new path. Let's take a listen to some of the excerpts from that address now.
우리는 이미 더 이상 핵무기를 만들지도 시험하지도 않으며 사용하지도 전파하지도 않을 것이라는 데 대하여 내외에 선포하고 여러 가지 실천적 조치들을 취해 왔습니다. 나는 앞으로도 언제든 또다시 미국 대통령과 마주 앉을 준비가 되어 있으며 반드시 국제사회가 환영하는 결과를 만들기 위해 노력할 것입니다. 우리 인민의 인내심을 오판하면서 일방적으로 그 무엇을 강요하려 들고 우연히 공화국에 대한 제재와 압박으로 나간다면 새로운 길을 모색하지 않을 수 없게 될 수도 있습니다. 아무런 전제 조건이나 대가 없이 개성공업지구와 금강산 관광을 재개할 용의가 있습니다. 정전협정 당사자들과의 긴밀한 연계 밑에 조선반도의 현 정전체계를 평화체제로 전환하기 위한 다자 협상도 적극 추진하여 항구적인 평화보장 토대를 실질적으로 마련해야 합니다.
So a lot to unpack there, but let's just start with your overall assessment of Kim Jong-un's speech. What did you think when you first saw it yesterday?
Well, I think that Chairman Kim's address is the positive of all this year. I think that the three important keywords of his address this year include economy, and the complete denuclearization, and the United States. The first, for economy, it's the message for the domestic people. So domestically, Chairman Kim emphasized the hardworking of his people to make progress, the internal economic progress under the economic sanctions imposed by the international community. And he also reaffirmed the willingness or the strong will to achieve the complete denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula. And finally, he also mentioned that he's ready to meet President Trump at any time to move forward. So overall, considering those three keywords, he sticks to the negotiations and the route that he wants to make some kind of progress in terms of achieving economic development and the complete denuclearization. So I evaluate that this year's address is positive.
Before we move on, let me just talk about the style, as I mentioned as well. It was quite different. I mean, we see him sitting in a chair. We've not seen that kind of image before. And he ditched his Mao suit and wearing a suit and tie this time. What do you make of this, and what do you think he's trying to achieve here?
Well, it's interesting to see such kind of change. And as you mentioned, this year he got a little bit different, the costume and the clothes and the style of the backgrounds of the room. And in previous years, he got the speech like standing at the podium in a big auditorium with a large audience. But this year, he looks a little more comfortable and a little bit sophisticated or the dandy, you know. I think that he wanted to show the world readers that he's just one of the normal leaders of the world. So he's pursuing that North Korea is pursuing or going toward the kind of the normal state or the normal country in terms of the economic development or something like that.
Okay, let's move on to the content of his, speech as well. Kim addressed that he's going to continue towards denuclearization, as you mentioned, which was quite an important point. But he added that the US needs to take measures, otherwise they would be perhaps forced to take a, quote, new path. I mean, what do they mean by this new path, and should we be concerned at all?
Well, in a negative meaning, the new path means kind of he's walking away from the negotiations. It's kind of the end of the current negotiations. But considering the overall positive tones he made in his address this year, I think that it's just he just want to push United States to take the corresponding measures for the North Korea taking the steps to denuclearize itself. So I don't think that it's kind of new path. The meaning is kind of real threat or just something like that. But instead, I think that it's just pushing the United States to take more the active measures to satisfy or what the North Korea wants. And again, and he also toned down the of the message during the address. So, but he still wanted to make a progress with the United States, but he reaffirmed what North Korea wants. Like he wanted to make the synchronous and step-by-step measures instead of the first giving up its nuclear weapons and then obtaining the measures from the United States, just to move forward, go with the United States and North Korea. So it's the step-by-step measures.
He also announced that he's prepared to restart the Kaesong Industrial Complex and the Mount Kumgangsan Tour project as well. But he also added this bizarre quote, without preconditions. That raises a lot of questions as well. I mean, why has he announced this now? Can he actually do these things without a cooperation from South Korea and the international community? And what does this without preconditions mean?
Well, I think that Chairman Kim wants South Korea to take more active roles in terms of the relieving economic sanctions imposed to the North Korea, in terms of the improving the inter-Korean relations. And North Korea wants to get some kind of economic benefits. But as you mentioned, without relieving economic sanctions first, it would not be possible that South Korea could provide anything economic or something material to North Korea. So, and Chairman Kim already knows about that. So Chairman Kim pushes South Korea to take a more active role and pressure the United States and the international community to relieve economic sanctions for North Korea. I think that's the underlying meaning that Chairman Kim wanted to deliver to South Korea.
So he's putting the ball back in President Moon's court to take to the US to try and make change, make this impasse between North Korea and the US to break.
Yes. So currently we got the kind of the South Korea's active roles in terms of facilitating the North Korea-US negotiations. So as you mentioned, North Korea and the United States got some kind of the stalled situations. And the two countries still have the difficulty in terms of narrowing down the gaps that they have. So they need to have a facilitator. That's the South Korea. So in terms of this year's new address, Chairman Kim requested South Korea President Moon to take more active roles in terms of delivering what North Korea wants to the United States and the international community, or find the alternative to narrow down the gaps they have.
Well, do you think it will be possible this year for something like that to happen, restart in Kaesong?
No, I don't think so. But it depends on, at this point, it would not be easy because, as I mentioned, only when economic sanctions imposed to North Korea could be lifted, then we can see some kind of improvement or some kind of achievement, the resuming the Kaesong industrial complex, or they're resuming the Kumgangsan, the tour programs. So again, North Korea's denuclearization is key to everything, including the improvement of inter-Korean relations.
We'd like to go on more. There's more to unpack, but we're out of time, I'm afraid. So thank you for coming in today, and hopefully we'll wake you back to talk more about this later.
Okay, thank you.
And that concludes our show for today. I'll be back same time tomorrow. But in the meantime, stay tuned to Arirang for our later newscast for the latest from Korea and around the world. Thank you for watching, and goodbye for now.
취업해서 해외여행도 가고 싶고 부모님한테 선물도 드리고 싶어요.
I really hope to foster